Hi guys, I'm Ivory and today I'm going to be doing a 2-day wear test on the Milani Cream to Powder Foundation. I'll be showing you how this applies initially as well as checking in throughout the day to show you how it wears. For anyone that is new, I have oily and acne prone skin, so a lot of my wear tests are catered towards people with similar skin types. So if you find that this review is helpful, I will link up in the cards a playlist of all the other foundations I've done a review on. So yesterday I did wear this for about 8 or 9 hours all day yesterday, so I definitely already have some opinions formed. By the way, this is not easy to find, not for me at least. I checked my grocery stores, Ulta online, all the shades that could possibly work for me at Ulta. It was sold out, so I had to go to the official Milani website. Let me tell you a little story, okay? On the Milani website, they have a find my shade app generator type thing. And every single time I put in a foundation, they matched me with, I think it was warm sand, but let me show you the model that they use for that foundation shade. Now, I know that I am very guilty of getting foundations that are too dark for me, but I am not this much in denial, okay? I am better than that. So I put in 6 other foundations and each time they kept referencing that woman. I even have a Milani foundation. So I even put that foundation in the generator and they still would reference the same person. Whoever is in charge of finding my shade, whether it's computer generated or whoever made the program, like the software developer who did that, you need to fix that. That is a serious bug. So that's just to say I had to look through the models one by one. It was very hard. I went with the shade Warm Beige, which I can make work, but I don't know if there's a better match for me because I can't find it in stores. And I wasn't gonna buy 2 foundations because if I don't like this foundation, then I have 2 jars of it, of a product that I don't like. So I did go with Warm Beige, which works for me, but if there's a better match for me out there, I don't know about it. So I'm gonna go ahead and prime half my face to see if primer makes a difference for this foundation. The primer that I'm using is the Hourglass Mineral Veil. And as always, I start in the center of my face and then move the product outwards. And then on either side of my face, I'm using a brush and a sponge to see if one applicator works better than the other with this foundation. The brush that I'm using is the F47, which is the multitasker. And then the sponge that I'm using is the Juno & Co. microfiber sponge. Both I will link in my description box. The foundation is supposed to glide on as a cream and magically morphs into a buildable, full coverage, light diffusing powder foundation with a soft, matte, camera ready finish. It's made with lily and bamboo extracts to control oil and shine. It has antioxidant rich vitamins A and E and green tea to help protect skin. The product contains 0.28 ounces and retails for $11. All right, so this is one layer of the foundation. The coverage is the same whether you use a brush or the sponge, but it is easier to just use the sponge. I felt like I had to dip into the pan a lot less when I use the sponge versus the brush. I had to dip in like every couple of strokes, which was kind of annoying. But in terms of it looking better, the brush, I mean, it doesn't look better. It looks just about the same. I don't see brush strokes or anything. It's not patchier than the sponge side. It's just application is easier with a sponge. I'm gonna be making a lot of comparisons to the KVD foundation because a lot of people said that this is a dupe for that. Right away, I can tell you that it's not. When you pick it up and you touch it, it has a balm-like consistency, not nearly as melty as the KVD foundation. This one is definitely a lot stiffer. The finish is also not nearly the same. This one is a little bit more matte. The KVD one was full coverage. Like you only needed 1 layer and it was full coverage. Whereas this one, you can still see my acne peeking through. I can see lots of my natural skin popping from underneath. So right off the bat, I'm telling you right now, they are not dupes for each other, which might be a good thing that they're not similar because as you already know, if you watched my 2-day wear test of the KVD Good Apple foundation, I hate it. I'm gonna go ahead and add my second layer only on certain spots. I just think that when it comes to this type of texture of a foundation, less is more. You know, when I made that wear test, it felt like any other wear test. Nothing was different about that one, except for the fact that I couldn't wear it for the full 10 hours because it was so bad on me. The amount of comments that people wrote saying, the reason why the foundation didn't work for you is because you have acne. That's the point! I, like millions, possibly billions of other people, have acne on my face. And I want to be able to help those people be able to find products that work well with acne. So when these people come and squawk at me that the reason why foundations don't work is because I have acne, I'm kind of just like, I'm sorry, is foundation only for people with perfect skin? Is that what you're trying to say? Because I thought the reason why makeup was even invented in the first place was to cover imperfections. So if it doesn't even help people with imperfections, then what's the point of makeup? I'm not talking about now, because some people just wear makeup even with perfect skin because makeup makes them feel good. That's fine. But I'm talking about when it was originally created. Wasn't it to conceal undesirable imperfections? So I just really don't get the point of why people comment that, because I just get confused. Are only people with perfect skin allowed to wear foundation now? Is that what we're doing? Are we gatekeeping foundation now? So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. So this is 2-ish layers. I really just spot concealed the areas that needed just a little bit more coverage. So my forehead forehead, I have no acne there, so this is still one coat. My cheeks just have a little bit of extra coverage and probably a little bit on my chin. But you can see that the coverage on me is medium, arguably medium full. I still see things peeking through. I purposely didn't add a lot of product on my face because of how my wear test went yesterday. I want to give this foundation a fighting chance. Hopefully you'll be able to see on my nose, but I feel like it's emphasizing the texture. This is one layer. I did not add an extra coat of foundation on my nose, so it just already looks makeup-y. And same thing on my chin too. It's just looking a little bit cakey. I would say everywhere else though, for the most part, looks pretty good. When you touch the foundation, it does feel like it's already been set. It has a pretty nice matte finish to it. And as far as transfer, I mean, it's too early to tell, but I don't see any transfer. I'm gonna fast forward doing the rest of my makeup. All of the products that I'm using will be listed in my description box below. All right, so now that my makeup is all on, I definitely like the way it looks better, but I feel like it's because my products that I use are really good and they work well for me. So it's really helped how my overall base looks. But having tried this yesterday, I will say I don't think I would ever be able to wear this as a standalone. There are plenty of times where I'm really lazy and I just put on foundation. I can tell you right now, this is not gonna be the foundation that I would wear for that type of scenario. The sides of my nose are already looking kind of splotchy. Just the entire center of my face looks a little bit lived in already. And we just started the wear test. I can see where I applied concealer in the center of my nose. It looks really good and smooth here. And then literally after that line, there's a noticeable difference on the parts that have no concealer on top. Same thing on my chin. I applied concealer there and I could see on the sides of it, it's not like cracking or anything. It just looks less polished and less smooth. So the concealer on top makes it look better. So I'd say right now the center of my face, it just looks like I've been wearing this for 2 hours. So it doesn't look super bad, but the issue I'm having is it looks already lived in. The wear test just started, like we didn't even start yet. So I'm really concerned how this is gonna break down, but maybe it just breaks down like that initially and then after 10 hours it stays like that. I don't know. Today's wear test is gonna be a little bit different because yesterday I wore a mask for quite a number of hours, whereas today I will not be. So I will see how this wears without any type of obstacle to potentially ruin the wear time. I'm wearing this foundation for 10 hours today. I will check in at the halfway point in natural lighting to show you how it's wearing. All right, so we are over the 5-hour mark. Where do I begin? The concerns that I was having yesterday about this foundation are holding up consistent today. So you can see my nose down the center, it looks good because that's where the concealer is. When you move to the side, it just doesn't look right. I don't know how to exactly describe it or pinpoint what the issue is, but it doesn't look nice. I can't describe in words how it's supposed to look, but it's not supposed to look like this. It's starting to shear out just a little bit. The cheeks look good. Usually I don't have issues on my cheeks, so we're not even gonna focus on that. The chin, this chin. You can see on my chin that it's like cracking. Right here in the center where the concealer is, again, it looks good. And then when you start to move upwards, it just looks patchy. It's laying all weird on my acne. It's like kind of breaking up. It doesn't look super horrible, but it's just not ideal for me. My upper lip though is what's bothering me the most about this foundation. You can see on my upper lip that it's breaking up and it's creating those little holes where my hair follicles would grow. But before every wear test, I always shave. So there's not like there's hair or very much hair. The little holes that are forming really annoy me. It's a big pet peeve of mine. I would say that out of my entire face, the upper lip is the worst part right now. The second would be the chin. The third would be the nose. Everywhere else I can live with. As far as primer versus no primer, I cannot see a difference right now. It may change at the 10-hour mark, but for right now, in terms of oiliness and in terms of how it's wearing, I feel like they look the same on both sides. And actually in terms of oiliness, I feel like it's under control. It looks pretty good. I wouldn't blot at this point. Hold on, let me see if it transfers at all. I see a little bit of transfer on my ring finger, but when I look at the spot that I just tapped, I don't see any finger mark of missing foundation, which is good. So it did transfer a little bit. This area is not set just because nothing ever really happens here, and I won't set it if I know I'm not gonna be wearing a mask. Like today, I'm just staying home. So I feel like I'm not that oily, but in terms of how it's wearing, I'm not super thrilled. But I will say that it is wearing better than the KVD Good Apple Balm foundation, because at least I feel like this is okay enough to continue wearing for 10 hours. Whereas for the KVD one, after 5 hours, I could not wear it past 5 hours. It looked so atrocious on me that I couldn't even finish the wear test. Whereas this one, I feel like I'm okay following through for the full 10 hours. So there is that. But that is it for this check-in. I will come back at the 10-hour mark to give you my final thoughts on day one. All right, we have reached 10 hours of wear. Oil-wise, I feel like it actually doesn't look too bad. I know it's a personal preference thing. I don't think I need to blot. I think it looks pretty good as is. I am gonna zoom in a second, but primer did make a difference in this case. I can see it on my nose. It rubbed off a ton. I did not rub my nose or touch my nose at all today. I didn't do a mask. Nothing disturbed this base. You see on the primer side, I mean, it's still not perfect. I definitely see that the foundation has broken up, but when you turn to the other side, bear with me. I know it's gonna be a little hard to see because the foundation is very close to my actual shade. Right here on the side, I see lots of my skin peeking through, more so than on this side, but the nose is the only area where I notice a difference. Everywhere else, when you compare primer versus no primer, I feel like the wear looks pretty much the same. You can see on my chin that the foundation is cracking. I can see those vertical lines. Not the most horrible thing, but I do have foundations that lay better and lay a little bit more smoothly. The upper lip area still really bugs me. It just looks real splotchy, all those missing holes. I mean, it's mostly focused up here in my upper lip, but you'll see missing holes kind of just sprinkled out throughout the mouth and chin area. It did settle in my T-zone, in my fine lines. I did notice that at the 5-hour mark. It doesn't look like it's gotten worse since then, which is good, I guess, but then at the same time, it did start settling at the 5-hour mark, which is a little early for me. So if it just looked like this right now at the 10-hour mark, I'd be like, okay, well, it's 10 hours. That's okay. But it's been looking like that since 5 hours ago, which I'm not as forgiving about. But I did notice that it didn't really settle into my forehead wrinkle, which is pretty good. And in my smile line, I do see a little bit of creasing. I think it's pretty noticeable. You see, I mean, it's really just as simple as just buffing that out. There. Now we don't have a problem. My cheeks, no complaints here. I would say these look pretty good. The forehead, fairly good. T-zone, nose, chin, average / not so good, and then my upper lip, bad. I definitely have mixed feelings about this foundation because some areas it looks decent, other areas that are more important to me it doesn't look as good, and it also doesn't look that oily, which is nice. So I definitely have mixed emotions. I'm glad you're along the ride with me here so that we can experience this together. To sum up day one, at least, I definitely think primer helps in helping the foundation stay a little bit better. I also prefer using the sponge. I will be using that tomorrow for the entire face. Also today I did use setting spray, and when I used the setting spray on the KVD foundation, I vaguely remember regretting that. So maybe tomorrow I won't use setting spray and see if maybe I'll get a different outcome. I don't know. That's the whole point of this video. I try a bunch of different things to show you what works best so that you know what to do and what not to do. So that is it for day one. Good night. All right, it is day two. It's actually been a couple days since I last tried the foundation. I did think that primer made a difference, so I will be priming again. I'm actually gonna do 2 primers on my face because the center of my face, I didn't really like the way that this wore. So I'm gonna go in with the e.l.f. Putty Primer. So I'm gonna apply this to my chin, my upper lip, and also on my T-zone because it looks cakey and makeup-y in these areas. So maybe this will help remedy that. We will find out soon enough. And then on top of that, I will add the same primer that I used yesterday, the Hourglass Mineral Veil. Today I'm gonna be adding loose setting powder underneath my foundation. I'm only gonna do it on half my face just to see if it makes a difference. Adding powder underneath can do 2 things. It can help prolong your oils from coming through, and it can help the foundation just wear better. Like it can help prevent or decrease the amount of cracking and separating, which I was getting in certain areas, so maybe this will also help fix it. I am using the Dermablend loose setting powder. If you're new to my channel, you will learn very soon that I am very much a creature of habit. This is pretty much the only powder that I ever use because I love it so much and it works so well under my foundation. A lot of the times too, I will use a product and I will use it for a long period of time, with the exception of eyeshadow palettes. That's really the only things I ever change in my description box every single time, and then most of it is the same. And then after maybe 8 months or something, I'll have a new rotation. Just make sure that if you're going to try this trick, you really press it into your skin. And this is expected, but I wanted to show you when you put powder on top of just your skin, it's going to emphasize the dryness. Of course it's dry because it's over my acne, because it, you know, scabs, and the skin over it is very thin and flaky, but hopefully the foundation will mask that. I'm gonna go ahead and use the Juno & Co microfiber sponge again to apply this all over the face. All right, so I'm putting on 1 layer. I'm keeping it at 1 layer today. You could see that the foundation actually covered the dry skin that was over my acne quite well. I was afraid that you would still be able to see the flakiness, and you still sort of can, but it actually did a pretty decent job of covering most of it. So just wanted to point out a pro of this foundation. I'm gonna go ahead and do my makeup really quickly. All the products that I'm using are the same ones that I used on day 1. Okay, so now that my makeup is all on, I'm still getting the same issues that I had on day one. This foundation just does not like my nose. It is patchy. It just does not sit right. There's something about balm or cream foundations that just don't sit the same as liquid foundations on me. I mean, it's not everywhere. I mean, the outside of my face actually looks pretty good, but the center of my face, it just never looks very smooth. It always ends up looking a little makeup-y, which I can see in my T-zone. And this is all one layer of foundation. I'm still gonna continue on with my wear test though. I will see you in a couple hours. All right, so I am 6 hours in. Oil-wise, I feel like it looks fine, but the way it's wearing on my face, that's another story. This is the side with powder. If you are forgetful, it's the side with the mole. Powdering underneath, big mistake. Don't do that with this foundation. It's cracking and the cracks are huge versus the side with no powder. I still see a little bit of cracking, but it's not as severe as this side. The lines are really big and deep and noticeable. I see it breaking up pretty badly up here too, and it's only on the powder side. So just learn from my mistakes. Don't powder underneath this foundation. And on the other side, I just have the Hourglass primer that I used on day one, and then the e.l.f. putty primer. My upper lip still looks pretty bad. I see those missing dots of foundation, and it happened day one, so it seems to be pretty consistent in terms of how it wears on me. Just a reminder that even though this is a 2-day wear test, I have actually worn this 3 days. First time I wore this was off camera, and on that day, all I did was put 1 layer of foundation on my skin, and then I set it, and that was it. I just wanted to see how the foundation wore alone, and everything that's happening on the past 2 days that I've been filming, it happened on the first day as well, so it's consistent every single time I use this foundation. It's not for me. We're gonna wrap it up. I don't need 10 hours to figure this out. Just like the KVD foundation, I do not like this one. Is it better than the KVD foundation? Maybe slightly. I do feel like oil-wise, I look okay. At the 10-hour mark on day one, I felt like my oils for the most part were pretty under control, but it does not wear well on me, and that seems to be really consistent with me and products such as stick foundations, that type of consistency where it's a little bit thicker on the outside of my face. It looks okay, but on the center of my face, these balm formulas, they never lay as smoothly and they never wear as long or as well as a liquid foundation on me. And this one is no different. So I would say that this foundation, it is oily skin friendly, but I wouldn't say it's really acne friendly, texture friendly. If you have any of those, it's gonna emphasize that. If you have the same problem with me where stick foundations, balm foundations, whatever you wanna call them, typically don't work for you, I think this foundation is not gonna work for you either. I'm gonna talk about the pros and the cons of this foundation anyways, because I want you to have the full picture. So the good things I like about this is it did control my oils pretty nicely. And for this being a balm consistency, usually they feel very heavy on me, but this one doesn't. It feels pretty nice and lightweight. It's affordable and it covered up my dry patches pretty well. The things I don't like about this foundation, it does not lay smoothly on the center of my face on initial application, and it doesn't wear well in the same areas over time. It will crack. It is noticeable. It just doesn't look as nice and as polished. It emphasizes texture. I have these missing dots of foundation on my upper lip. In certain areas like my T-zone, it looks makeup-y and cakey. My nose, it was splotchy. I just don't think that it looks very flattering on me. With that being said, I think you know I do not recommend this foundation. There are a lot of better ones on the market. So if you are someone that bases your purchases solely on my recommendations, I'm gonna tell you right now, you should skip it. Of course, that is just my opinion. At the end of the day, do whatever you want. But that is it for this review. I hope that it was helpful and insightful. If it was, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and feel free to comment down below what other videos you'd like to see from me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Oh, hey Millie. Hey. Hi. How are you? You haven't come down while I'm filming in a while. Millie's playing with her squeaky toy. Thank you. Ready? Fetch!